say, well, he shouldn't be afraid of no woman. She had already killed every prophet of God she could find. She, manly Jezebel. I don't know that she was manly, but somehow she ordered that every prophet of God that she could find be killed. Elijah was hiding in the hills. Obadiah, as you continue to read, was hiding other prophets of God in caves, hiding them from her. And he heard this news. After all that they had all seen God do, out of all that they had witnessed, he believed that God was going to have convinced them enough that they would surely say, no more worshiping Baal, everyone worships Jehovah God. And instead she said, but tomorrow I want that Elijah dead. It's because of him we didn't have rain for 3 years. It's because of him that our 450 prophets had to be slaughtered down by the brook. It's because of him. Don't ever forget that no matter how many miracles you see God do in your life, there's always an enemy. And the more you see God do in you and through you, the more he's going to work on you. And he often uses a thing called depression to do that. And so in 1 Kings chapter 19, I hear many of you turning the page, as the great theologian Bob Seger would say. Okay, 1 Kings chapter 19. Let's look at this. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, also how he had executed all the prophets with his sword. Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, so let the gods do to me, and even more so, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, Elijah arose and ran for his life. Here he thought, finally, I can quit running. Have you ever thought, if my entire family would just get saved, I'd no longer have to watch what I say at Thanksgiving? If my family would just come to know Jesus Christ, I'd no longer have to be careful how I pray for the meal at Thanksgiving. Or no longer would I have to, when they come into town, dance or walk on eggshells whenever we tell them that tomorrow morning we're going to church, but you're welcome to go with us, instead of just staying home because you have company. What kind of a witness is that? I know there are exceptions, but for most people it's the norm. Elijah, man, he was probably thinking, they're going to get saved, and they're going to become some of the biggest mouthpieces for God. And instead, she said, you know what? Just as you killed those prophets of ours, I'm going to kill you now. By this time tomorrow. Well, Elijah then ran for his life. Verse 3, when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. I want to give you today how to be depressed in 3 easy steps. And we're going to learn this from Elijah and from the things that he did. And I want to give it to you this way because I want to really encourage you not to do these things. And who wants to be depressed? I've never met anyone who said, this week I'm going to set out to be just depressed. So read it as 3 things not to do. Or 3 things to do if you want to be depressed. Well, the first thing is this. What did Elijah do? He found a place all by himself. For those of you who have struggled, and in some way everyone here has, some much more than others, but many can relate to this piece right here, and that is that when you are truly experiencing depression, the real deal, not discouragement, not just saying, I'm kind of bummed that my team lost the ball game. No, I'm talking about deep, dark depression. When you're experiencing that, the very thing that you need is the very thing that you despise. You do not need to be alone, but guess what? You do not want to be around people. Think with me for just a minute and just listen to some of these things. Depression shuts down what we need the most, and that's people. And I jotted these down. I don't even remember which book I found these, but there are 4 or 5 things that just kind of help us discern what's going on inside. Listen, do you have less personal friends today than you did a year ago? Or do you have more? Do you find yourself, another way of saying that is, do you find yourself slipping away from people? One at a time. One at a time. No longer is it a few weeks since you've spoken, it's now a few months. And the next thing you know, it's over a year. And now you don't even relate to that person. You don't even know what's going on in their life. And God, you're not taking advantage of all of the new people God's bringing into your life. Number two, are you spending less evenings out and more evenings trapped inside your house? Number three, when you come home, do you retreat to the bedroom or the basement away from your family? Michael Card wrote a song called Underneath the Door. And it's a song about when he was a little boy, his father, who was a doctor, a very well-known doctor. He was the physician for many musicians in Nashville. Boots Randolph, the great sax player, was one of those. And Michael Card's father, this physician, would come home at night, go straight to the bedroom and close the door. And Michael Card has pictures his mom gave him of in a diaper on the floor, sticking his fingers under the door, hoping to make contact with his father. Remember last week I asked the question, how can a physician, maybe it was in the article, it all runs together after a while, but I asked the question, how can a physician who has been given the ability to have knowledge to guide people to healing, and they can have a bank account and they can have virtually anything they really want, how could a physician who has been allowed to have so many blessings be plagued with something as horrible as depression? I'm describing somebody here today, I'm sure. Watching, listening, or here in this room. Are you skipping your ABF and avoiding a home community group because that involves people? And instead of getting closer to God's people, you're finding yourself just being inclined to just distance and stay away. I want you to understand something. When you're depressed, and I am not an authority on this, but I've met a lot of people, and I'm continuing to meet more and more who are educating me greatly on the subject of depression. And I need us all to understand something. The person who's depressed can be in the middle of a room filled with all the people who love them and would give anything for their good, and they will still feel alone. They don't experience it. They don't feel it. They don't understand why, but for some reason, in the midst of all of the people who love them, they feel absolutely alone. All over this room, there are people shaking their heads. I don't want you to look around. I just want you to listen. But know that God's speaking to people here today. Is your worst nightmare, and this is number 5, being trapped in a corner by someone who loves you? If this is the case, you may be doing the same thing that Elijah did. And we've said that Elijah found a place by himself. I want to prove it to you. Verse 3 of 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 3. When he saw that, he arose and ran for his life. He went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and he left his servant there. But he himself, by himself, went a day's journey into, somebody tell me what that next word says in your Bible. Went where? Into the what? The wilderness. What's in the wilderness? Nothing. Who lives in the wilderness? Nobody. He not only dropped off God had given him a companion to travel with him, to encourage him, to strengthen him, to hold him accountable. What did he do? He drops him off. Stay here. I imagine that companion, that servant would have said, well, I don't have anything going on. I can just go with you. No, stay here. And then he goes not where there are people, he goes into the wilderness. Elijah was depressed because, first of all, he gave depression permission to enter his life by finding a place by himself.